Why are things so intense there right now between the Ukraine and Moscow?
Well, what we've seen in Ukraine has been the overthrow of a legitimate government and the establishment of a new government, which has been, in a sense, unsure of itself, but which is trying to create a situation in which it can become much more closely aligned with the European Union than Ukraine was in the past. And President Putin of Russia has taken exception to this, because what he wants is a Ukraine which remains closely associated with Russia. And it seems that neither the EU nor Russia are willing to accept a Ukraine which is more equidistant from both.
You know, if you take a look at the map of Ukraine and where Crimea sits, it really is integral to Russia's naval dominance. It's really their only access to the global waterways. Talk about the history of Crimea and what it truly means for Russia's power base.
Crimea has always been important as a military base for the Soviet Union and now for Russia, because, as you rightly said, it provides them with an outlet onto the Black Sea. Russia could conceivably have other outlets onto the Black Sea, and indeed it does, but these are mainly civilian ports, whereas Sebastopol is set up as a military base and therefore has all of the wherewithal that the Russian Navy requires. Russia clearly wants to retain that because it provides it with that outlet to the Black Sea and therefore into the Mediterranean. If it wanted to exercise its influence in the Mediterranean in any other way apart from going through the Black Sea, it would have to go all the way around the European continent in order to do so. So strategically, Crimea is important for Russia, and retaining its military rights within Crimea is important for Russia.
All right, it's got 58% of ethnic Russians there in the Crimea. You've got President Obama sending Secretary of State John Kerry to Kiev. How much is this going to impact just this showdown between the Ukraine and Russia?
Well, it really depends very much upon what President Obama decides to do and on what President Putin decides to do. I mean, the crude fact is that there is no stomach in the US for sending ground troops in, and in many ways, unless foreign ground troops would go in, it seems difficult to see how external powers can exercise any direct influence on what happens on the ground. Clearly, what the American government will try to do is to get Russia to withdraw by threatening various sorts of types of pressure that can be applied economically, politically on the international stage, and I guess that's what they're going to try to do. Kerry going to Kiev simply signals that the US believes that Kiev is in the right and Russia is in the wrong, and that it will do what it can to bring about a resolution of the issue. But as far as Putin is concerned, I don't think this will cut much ice with him, because he sees this as being just another instance of when the United States and Europe have sought to extend their influence into what Putin sees as Russia's traditional backyard.
Well, and as you said, Professor Gill, military presence accepted. We've heard from John McCain basically saying that that's off the table, whether or not that was ever on the table. What is it going to take, short of that, to get Russia to leave if it's going to work?
I think what Russia is after is to establish a situation in which it's continuing access to the military base in Crimea is guaranteed, regardless of what happens in Kiev, regardless of what sort of a government there is. And the second thing it wants is that the government in Kiev will not get into bed with the EU, that it will continue to retain some close associations with Russia. If it could get that, I think that Putin would probably withdraw the Russian troops.